morning. Let it be noted that June 12, 2018, at 9 o'clock a.m. the police board is in session. In accordance with General Statute 138A-15, it is the duty of every board member to avoid conflicts, both conflicts of interest and appearance of conflict. Does any board member have any known conflict of interest or appearance of a conflict with respect to any matters coming before the board today? If so, please identify the conflict of interest or appearance of conflict and refrain from any undue participation in the particular matter involved. All right, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I have been asked by Mr. Craddock just to remind the board if they would use their microphones today to help with the video. So,
if they would?
Yes, and if they're talking, if they would be sure to turn on the mic.
Okay, others will have to turn theirs off or we'll have feedback. Okay, we look for the approval of the agenda.
So moved.
Second. Okay, consider any order that the chairman wishes, please.
Correct.
Okay. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Agenda is approved. The approval of the minutes for April 24th, 2018. We have a motion to approve the minutes. Already discussion?
So moved.
Second. The motion second to approve the minutes for April 24th, 2018. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. I believe, Mr. Rogers, we have someone for open forum today, is that correct?
Yes, we do. We have this morning Mr. Stephen Craddock, who is the president of NCAB, and he would like to address the board on the live streaming that took place at the board meeting on April 24th.
Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
Nice to see everyone here today. I and the NCAB Board of Directors would like to officially thank Mr. Rogers, the NCAB staff, Chairman McGill, for allowing us to provide the live streaming at the April 24th meeting. We also appreciate the time you all gave us on the Monday before and also after the meeting in order to set up and take down all the equipment. I wanted to take a few minutes today just to give you an idea of some of the statistics about the number of viewers that we reached, the content of some of the comments that we did receive, and some other relevant data that Facebook and YouTube tracks, just so you know what an impact it made on people. We also received an overwhelming number of positive comments online and via email about this live coverage of the meeting from viewers from all over the country, not just North Carolina residents. I thought this information would be useful to you all, and it will help to solidify the need for having these meetings recorded as well as distributed to the public. Here are some interesting statistics that truly surprised me as well. But speaking of the NCAB YouTube channel, the April 24 videos had a viewership of 1,044 viewers. Of those 1,044 viewers, 736 watched on a computer, 234 watched by a phone, 66 watched by a tablet, and 8 watched on televisions. The total watch time from all these viewers was 5,344 minutes. When speaking of the NCAB Facebook page, the April 24 videos had a viewership of 1,700 viewers. The total watch time from all the viewers was 7,063 minutes. To date, the total reach of the videos was over 4,000 Facebookers. This means that over 4,000 people were talking about the videos on their individual news feeds or among themselves. With YouTube and Facebook combined, there was a total of 12,407 minutes of watch time. That's over 200 hours in total people watching the videos. Some of the comments that were received about the live streaming were, and I'm quoting what we've received: "Thank you for making it easy for us at home to see what's happening at the appraisal board. Awesome. Every appraisal board should do this. It's all about the transparency and public trust. Great idea. Thank you, NCAB, for letting NCPAC present this." And the one I thought was most pertinent: "I can't believe that no one had thought about this or done this before here. We continue to believe that it is in the best interest of the general public of North Carolina that having media coverage here at these meetings, whether they're live streaming or if it is recorded, it will promote transparency, and it will give the viewers who watch an actual realization of what happens here. I think many people are afraid of the appraisal board because they think that you all are out to get them. And this absolutely proves that that is untrue. You guys are fair. The staff works very hard to present everything to you all, and it's very appreciated. And again, we thank you for this great and historic opportunity, and we thank you for your continuing support of protecting the public interest. I'll be glad to answer any questions if you all have any. Thank you very much. Thank you, Don.
Good job.
Okay, Mr. Rogers, we'll move to the finance section.
You have before you the April and May profit and loss statements. If you can't remember if it was actually in the March statement or if it showed up for the first time in April, but under miscellaneous you do have the refund from the Acela contract reflected there. The auditor will tell us if there's a better way to appropriate that line item, but said to list it there for the time being. We do. One thing I have taken some notice of is we continue to get ANC applications. If you look at May 31st, up to 35,000 in ANC new applications. And matter of fact, talking to Ms. Seeley this morning, we've actually gotten one in June, so that number is really 38,500 as of today. So that number continues to go up. Some do restructure and come back as a new entity and have to file a new application, and that is some of that, but not having seen a tremendous drop off yet in renewals, it's not reflected too much. I will just bring you up to date before we get into the other matters of finance. To date, and we sent you something in the information about the budget, but as of yesterday, we have a total of $671,800 in renewal fees. That's $495,800 in appraisers and $176,000 in AMCs. That compares to $658,000 a year ago at the same time. We had about 21 more thousand in appraiser fees as of today, and about 8,000 less in AMC fees as of today. So I was telling some of the people in the back of the room, it's just amazing how the trend stays pretty consistent about when people renew. It just kind of comes in about the same time. So that's where we stand today on renewals.
Move on to
Can I ask a question about this?
sure.
Under outside legal counsel, there's a charge of $12,000, and I know we authorized up to 25, and this is only partial, but the authorization was to get something on rules so that we could actually regulate AMCs and not just appraisers, because some time, I was certainly under the impression that we had the authority to regulate AMCs until we had what I thought a clear-cut case. And suddenly we didn't have the authority, so it was agreed that we would get rules so that we could actually know what was happening in that arena. Obviously, work has been done. The question is, when will we get a report back?
Well, that is a little further on the agenda. Ms. Gillette's going to discuss that and some issues that have come up about when would be best to enact, to try to make some of those decisions, but that is on the agenda. What you are seeing as far as the finance report is the fees spent year to date now, and in the proposed budget, we just allowed for the remainder of that money if necessary to be budgeted. Doesn't mean we wasn't necessarily spend it.
All right, we're moving on to proposed budget.
Right, you did get a packet the day before the booklet on the proposed budget. This was reviewed by the finance committee. I had no changes requested by them, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Are there any questions from the board members? Motion to approve the budget.
And I would ask that the motion do mention the pay increase because that's required by law. It has to state it.
Okay, so motion. I don't think there's one.
Yeah, I didn't get anything, I didn't get this. Take over. Is it here in the book?
It's in the back of your book.
Is that in your book?
We send it separately because until you approve it, it's not public record.
Mr. Chairman, to move forward, since we've been asked to include this, I'll make a motion that we accept the new budget with the items with the pay increase as presented to the finance committee.
Thank you, sir. Do we have a second? Second. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Accept the proposed budget, including the related expenses for staff. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion is carried. I believe we have one more item relative to
Yes.
finance, that includes the excess lodging.
I think everybody, with the possible exception of Vernon, has been through this before, but they do ask every year that we get an approval for our excess lodging fees, which is typically our conference fees and when we contract with a hotel for the board members to come. Your meeting is a little bit higher than the typical per diem, and they just ask for a vote every year on that line item.
Motion to approve excess lodging in 2018, 2019. Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Okay, that concludes the finance section, and I believe it's ready to talk about the legal.
I'll talk about rulemaking for a few minutes, catch you up to date. There's no exhibit, but rulemaking, the public hearing we had in April, those rules will be going before the Rules Review Commission this Thursday at 10 o'clock, and I'll be there to represent you. Again, those are the 8 rules that we already passed last month. As I'm sure you remember, if we had 10 letters of objection on any particular rule, it results in a delayed effective date. It won't be effective until next year, but assuming everything goes through fine, these rules should be effective July 1st of this year. Exhibit 4 in your book is Rule 21 NCAB 57A0501. This was the one that we missed. We still had a comment period on in April. We had to wait until June in order to adopt this one. The only thing this rule does is adds standards rule 4 to the standards that we enforce at abuse practice. And remember, especially appraisers will know this by now, I hope, that the standards were divided standards rule 3 into 3 and 4. So we're just reflecting the current edition of abuse practice. And I would ask for a motion to amend this rule.
Motion to amend 21 NCAC 51A0501.
And I will point out there were no comments received on this change.
No comments from the board, so all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried on NCAC 57A.0501.
Thank you. Exhibit 5 in your book, at our last meeting, we voted not to adopt 57A0405, the FEMA report. They, for a variety of reasons, asked us to put together some language, send it out to stakeholders, and get some comments. So that's what you have in front of you is the two versions of the rule that we sent out, and I will state that I did leave some language out of that, and one person pointed it out to me. And also all of the comments that we received, we haven't received anything else except what's in the book. So these are all the comments received on those two rules. The piece that didn't make it into the rule was, I'm assuming, I actually shouldn't assume, I did not put the words in a 1 to 4 family residential dwelling. Those words, so I need the staff needs some guidance what you want to do with this rule. There are several issues. One, do you want the 1 to 4 family back in? The second is, do you want the language in the first or the second option? The third would be where you think the fee should be stated in the report. The other question that was raised in the comments was, should we also require an appraiser to attach an invoice to the report in addition to putting the fee in the report or in place of the fee in the report? And finally, what do we do with the technology report of fees? These are the issues that came up when we sent this out to stakeholders. So most of this is mentioned in this paragraph down here. So there are several things that before we can go forward to try to build a draft rule for you to take some action on, that we could use some feedback on. I guess the first thing I'd like to know is, do you want to add back in the language of 1 to 4 family residential dwelling?
Yes.
I don't need any motions on it, I just need some general guidance.
Yes, I think we do, yeah.
I'm in a position, I think that we need to leave that section out the way it is, and that we go, personally, I like the wording, reading through all these, the comments that we've had, it seems to me that we should concentrate on having the invoices attached. But if that's not the case, I would tend to use the wording of the second one that we have in front of us today, just when an appraisal management company engages, and that's my comment on that.
Steve, in the end. Because after the fact, I mean, the point is, this is going to go ultimately to the buyer, the person's refinancing. So I don't think we're having control from point A to point B, and B going to the buyer, that the invoice should be included anyway. I think that we should just eliminate that phrase and just go with it should be prominently displayed. My thoughts on that would be in the neighborhood section. For example, where we put other equals vacant land, we could put the deed paid by the appraiser, so on, in that section on the front page would be the standard area to indicate that for all appraisers.
I don't think anyone reads the neighborhood section.
Well, in bold, high fonts, they might see that.
I would agree with Corey. I think that it does need to be in the report. I would put it in the scope of the work section. We clearly need to have one full founder in there, because I think most commercial appraisals don't see any need to have an appraisal fee in there. Commercial reports, although it does go in the back of a lot of them in the level of engagement. I'm also of the opinion that we should require them to put an invoice in the report, as they have done for many years. Many of the residential appraisal reports actually have the invoice in there, because I really think it'll bring it to the forefront. It's just a personal opinion. Thank you.
I'm sorry, Sarah, I just want to respond to that. I agree with what you're saying, however, simply for accounting purposes, many lenders don't want the invoice sent. When you get to a certain portal, they'll ask you to send the full report and the invoice. And I think, honestly, the invoice goes to accounting and the report goes to someone else, the underwriter, I suppose. I was wondering if we're going to get a lot of feedback, negative feedback on that.
There's no reason that the invoice can't be uploaded separately when that's required, but I think if you make the invoice part of the report, there's no disputing what the appraiser will pay, and you can also break out allocate from one portal fees that the appraiser will pay. So that can be quite expensive too.
And I just wonder how we're going to educate. I'm not speaking of AMCs right now, but how we're going to educate TD Bank, First Bank, and Highlands Bank, and these other large banks. This is what we're going to have to do for North Carolina right now.
I found as Petra said, there have been some of the reports that I've reviewed in my area, almost always the invoices attached. Even though I know that the agency is not, a lot of times doesn't want it. A predominant number of my clients are lenders that order their own appraisals. I mean, I fall that outnumbers the agency work. So I'm sort of used to seeing it. And in my line of work, I have tried to put the invoices with the assignment. Because basically I'm not doing agency work now, that if they're restricting me from doing that, I just don't do the work. So I think to educate them, this is sort of the same thing that we're looking at right now, doing this for just putting the fee in the report. If we've got to do it, we've got to do it.
I understand, but what if your assignment condition specifically says that you have presumably accepted an assignment, and the assignment conditions say do not put it in there, we can't supersede that, can we?
Yes, we can. If it's a state rule, it's like putting your seal in there.
Okay.
If it's a state, if it's a rule, you have to do it, or you could have consequences in that instance.
And of course, terminology, Petra, we don't have a liberty of changing the scope of work section. I contend that basically,
Yeah, we do.
You get to decide the scope of work.
Yeah.
Are you telling me the forms can't be changed?
No.
Can't you use another form?
No.
Can't you substitute form? Wow. That's ridiculous.
You see, that's part of the irony here. Really, what's in front of us are assignment conditions and not scope of work, because only the appraiser can determine what is the scope of work and what gets done. And so in that section, if we make additional scope of work, we have to put it in a different place. We can't mess with the prepayment forms on the residential side. So that's an issue. And I think that there's a additional comments page. For us, it's page, when you're doing the residential work, it's on page 3, and it's a big open section, and it's right above C, right above stamp, right above that's the first values, and all that stuff is there. In reality, if we're going to designate a spot, that would probably be most beneficial.
Sarah,
Perfect.
Help me understand, I have a couple of clients who do work across the country and they sub it out. And their customers do not know what their subs are paying. And years ago, when I was first starting my practice, a couple of accounting firms had me do some work for which I billed the accounting firm and they billed their customer. Why wouldn't an electrical contractor go to the contractor's licensing board and say, I worked on this house and the homeowner does not know what I was paid to wire that house? And they should know. If we pass this rule, why wouldn't all the other 54 licensing boards pass a similar rule?
May I answer that? We are not subbing out anything. We are the general contractor in this case. And the facts are that the original HUD statements and now TRID originally was supposed to have this broken down as a matter of transparency for the borrower at the closing, where it would say appraiser fee, whatever, 500, management fee, 100. I'm making this up now. Management fee 100, technology fee, whatever. The banks argue that it's all an appraiser fee. So the result is that if the consumer at closing pays $700 for appraisal and they're actually getting $250 worth of appraisal work, we feel like they ought to know that part of that fee is going to something other than appraisal work, because it also goes to the point of the experienced appraiser, how much I'm willing to do an assignment for. And we feel like it's only fair and transparent for the consumer, the public, to know what they're actually paying for that appraisal.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying, but how is that different than a consumer not knowing what they paid years ago when I did a work for an electrician or anything? I mean, I hear what you're saying, but I don't understand how it is so unique to appraisers versus any other profession where there's an in-between entity between the consumer and the worker.
It's the technical issue here, between at what point in this grand scheme do the AMCs and the third parties has always been recognized, right? And in fact, federal regs are placing they're telling the AMC is an agent of the client. And they can have other activities inside ordering the appraisal for the bank, right? But they are not my client, even though they are in charge of getting me to do an assignment, doing a residential assignment. I'm always having to look as the lender is the client that I'm working for. The AMC is the agent that got me hooked up with the client.
If you're purchasing a house and you use a real estate agent, you have a right to know what the real estate agent is making on commission, don't you? And you have the right to know what the attorney is charging to close the loan. You have the right to know what the surveyor is charging. You simply want to know what the appraiser is charging. And you wouldn't want to say, well, you bought a house, here's X number of dollars for me, let's don't itemize, pay.
I certainly wouldn't want it to be a secret what the appraiser is making, but as I understand it, you are allowed to put it in the report now, right?
No.
You're not allowed to.
Certain stop me if I'm wrong, Dave, certain AMCs will tell you, do not put the invoice in the report. Do not state in the report, the body report, what your fee is. They
Which is a
don't,
violation of our current rule, which says an AMC cannot prohibit you from putting it in your report. That doesn't mean it doesn't happen, but
it happens on a regular basis because appraisers don't understand. It's not, there's an education problem there.
But so the current rule does prohibit AMCs from telling you that. And we just need to enforce the current rule, is that the problem?
if we did a complaint, we could.
So, okay, so if an appraiser is told not to put their fee in a report, they could file a complaint with us. And there would be no question, correct, that the AMC was in violation?
It's pretty straightforward.
They wouldn't.
Well, that's a different issue. Step one is to say the AMC is in violation,
Right,
correct?
this solves that problem, it puts that issue of being like forward, taking off the improvements, and then all kinds of rules in place for enforcing those very difference.
If I may get him somewhere.
Yes.
You raised a very good point. But the odd thing about us is most of what we're doing is constrained by what the federal government does. If the federal government would do what they should with what used to be the HUD statement or the DRID statement, if you look at that, it goes into gory detail. I mean, the tax stamps, the postage, the, 50 million lines of gobbledygook, but it does lay out who got what. And for years, appraisal fees were appraisal fees. It's now become almost where you put junk fees, everything from portal fees to you name it, and the amount going to the appraiser has gotten to the point that it's like a race to the bottom. Part of the responsibility of the public member is to protect the public, not the industry, whether it's appraisers or AMCs. And in this discussion, one of the reasons we do need to restrict it to 1 to 4 family residential, we don't need to protect commercial transactions in which both parties are knowledgeable and represented. We don't need to stick our nose into everybody's business. But if somebody does not protect buyers who don't go buying a house every year by making the process open to them, you're going to have another real estate bust, and I'm just waiting for it to happen. I can see it coming. Because if you do not have independent appraisals, don't even bother getting one. It's just another junk fee. You have to have independent appraisals. Now, you are right as far as the concept, well, we have a rule that you can tell people already. But I went to a training session, didn't announce who I was, just said to hear what the appraisers were saying. It was eye-opening. It doesn't matter what our rules are if nobody enforces them. And no, you're not going to get a complaint about the fact that the appraiser is getting a third of what is listed as the appraisal fee, because that appraiser will never do another job. That's what they're saying, I believe. And if the federal government would fix the form, we wouldn't even have to have this discussion.
I agree that the form should be fixed. I think a lot of what we deal with really does need to be fixed at a federal level. But back to this example like Corey about the Realtors Commission, often the commission listed on the settlement statement is not the commission that the person who did all the work gets, right? I mean, it's going to a real estate office, the company, and then the person who did all the work gets a portion of that, correct?
that varies across the board, depending on what company you're talking about and whether you're self-employed or whether you work for a large company or whatever. That's all across the board.
But it is the case that it could even, that probably in a lot of instances, the broker who did the legwork paycheck is not, in fact, transparent to the buyer of the house.
Sir, if I may for just a minute, when You are buying a house. You are buying the road, the land, the house, the electrical, all of it encompassing. When you are paying for an appraisal, if you go into your bank, you're refinancing your house. The bank says, I need a check for $700 for the appraisal. As the independent fee appraiser, you go to that property, especially in these rural communities where they know everybody, and you get hit with, you charged me $700 for this appraisal. And you're getting rich off of your neighbors, how dare you? They have no idea that they're not paying for the appraisal. They think when they're writing that check, and they put in the memo that they're paying for that appraisal in itself, in its entity. And that's not what they're paying for. When you buy a house, you know that you're paying for the electrical, you know that you're paying for all of these things. They don't know that there's a third party or a fourth party involved in this transaction. They think that that is what is happening, and that transparency isn't there. And as a society, as we trend towards transparency, I would hope that not only this board make that fee transparent, but I would hope other boards across the state would look at it and make it transparent. Because we are in a society where people are looking deeper. There was a time where we didn't look deeper. We are looking deeper. And as a society, I think, as this appraisals board looks at it, we need to look at it forward thinking and be transparent.
I agree with the transparency, but I think that it should come at a federal level rather than adding more red tape at the state level. And I would support changes at the federal level 100% on all of this.
As would I.
If I may, the problem is, if we wait for the federal level to do anything, it may not get done anytime soon. Now, if you want to say that this board is not responsible for protecting the public interest, and we are not going to regulate AMCs, despite the fact the federal government specifically told us to do so, it's an interesting position to take, but I can't take it. When I got on the board, I was told we had the power to regulate AMCs, and that I would be kept fully informed. And I didn't get informed of the fact we were supposed to be sure that the AMCs paid fees in a timely manner until we had new appointees to the board who told me. And I went to an Aero conference and learned, oh my gosh, I've been missing something. So I apologize for my failure to act more swiftly, but I was misinformed when I was appointed. We are responsible, and the federal government made us responsible in certain areas. Now, if you don't want to do that responsibility, that's a position you can take.
This is a topic we've been dealing with for years, and just to point out, the board approved this, and the only reason we're getting it back today is because we realized the language was not narrow enough to cover what we needed to cover. This is merely, all this is something which is a minor change to what we've already approved. We realized we needed to take out the wording for, we needed to make it more narrow so it did not cover commercial appraisals. It did not cover private appraisals where you hire me to appraise your house to see what it's going to look, hopefully what it might sell for. So we've been over this and over this and over this and over this. We are simply here today to get the correct wording down. That's the whole point. And I personally like the wording for appraisal of the 1 to 4 family. Basically, the first statement there, underlined statement, which is H on page on Exhibit 5. And where we put it in the body of the report, that doesn't matter that much to me. No one's probably going to see it anyway. But if they do see it, at least they'll know what they're getting. And we lost the ability with Dodd-Frank and AMCs to sell our services as a person who's been doing it for 39 years versus a person who's been doing appraisals for 6 months. And frankly, I want it to be known that I'm not lining my pockets on $700, $890 appraisals, I'm not getting that. It's going somewhere else. And if we want to take it further, there's one company, and this is not an AMC, I don't deal with too many AMCs, except David's sometimes, where he'll cough it up, the money, but this particular bank is the lowest paying bank that I deal with, and it's $450. Then I have to pay to do the work, which is $20 to appraise a report. So there's another person who gets part of the fee. And you get down to it, my gross revenue on that one assignment is $430. And then you start taking away my cost to do an assignment, which may be $200, and I'm back to minimum wage again. And we're not talking about fees, but we're talking about disclosure, about what we're getting, because I don't want to, as she says, I don't want to walk up to a borrower's house that's refinancing and then chastise me, and it even says, do not speak to the borrower at the house. Don't talk to them about what your compensation is and all that. I'm tired of being dictated to like that. So we've been all over this, and we approved it last time. We're simply here to get the word right.
Thank you. Mr. Reisel,
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. So, thank you for that segue report. Anyway, again, looking for common ground and trying to simplify what the staff has asked for. I think we have the majority. I am hearing, and you heard clearly from the last time meeting, commercial appraisal should not be included in this. I think, is that correct? Just I'm trying to give staff direction. Is that correct? Just again.
If I may, I think, help you clarify, we had adopted language, and it was brought to our attention that we were sticking our noses in areas that the federal government didn't tell us to do something. So what we are trying to do is eliminate gratuitous expansion of authority and say, not commercial, not private. If the federal government has regulated it and said we're supposed to regulate it, that's what we're trying to do. And in that context, I do reject the first alternative because I find it as ambiguous and unenforceable as the current rule, which says you can if you feel like it, and you don't want to feel like it unless you don't want to get any more business from that AMC. This says if ordered by an AMC, well, no AMC is going to order you to disclose in the body of the report how much was paid. So the second alternative, or a variant, or a requirement that the invoice be attached to the report furnished the person who's actually paying the bills, which is not necessarily the bank client. The whole thing is to, in my mind, is to comply with what the federal government told us to do. And so, yes, it does not apply to commercial.
Right, so again, I think again, to simplify, we all agree. You heard that clearly from the audience last time, listened to all parties, which does protect the public as well. So I think we agree on that. I would like to make the statement that I believe, again, we can't do this from a federal level. I wish we could, because I do feel full disclosure should be on the closing statement. That's where it belongs, not in the appraisal. Again, if you have the appraisal fee, because then to open the can of worms, the portal fees. Again, I understand the invoice would show this, and if that's what it needs to be, I think that is fine. But the public needs to know the portal fees as well. Because again, since you like to joke, Corey, no, but I have, as an AMC, a lot of them say appraiser portal fee. And on behalf of with our company, we pay that on behalf of all the appraisers that work for us. I never tell the appraiser about it. And in some cases, we start with $42 in portal fees. And for any of you guys, if you in the audience or here that work for us, you probably don't know that I have $42 in fees with certain clients. I never tell you I pay it. But again, when you talk about transparency, if you're going to say, here's an appraisal fee, we need to have these portal fees out there so the public knows as well. I believe, because again, it's not, okay, so if you said the AMC charged $120 was their fee for the review work, placement of the report, etc. But I start out with those portal fees, plus software fees that I may have. Again, just back to transparency, I don't think the general public knows that either. Of what some AMCs, not all, because I realize a lot of AMCs just pass it along to the appraiser, correct?
Correct, there's even one portal fee, one portal that you have to pay to see what the assignment is. Pay $10 to see if you want to do the assignment, and if you look at it and decide you do not, then you get a refund. I guess you do. I haven't checked. It's supposed they send you a refund 4 weeks later or something like that. So it is ridiculous. But then that gets into another can of worms. Like, okay, those are your expenses. Well, what about my software expenses?
Who's or what? That's my point. And I'm very open because again, some of them are clearly labeled and say, with Mercury, it says appraiser portal fee that I pay. Should the appraiser be paying? And say, I'm not asking to. I just want to. Again, I think for transparency, I think the public needs to know, I mean, you're disclosing all fees. It's just a touchy subject of, Corey, I mean, at some point, a net fee to the appraiser is a net fee to the appraiser.
Right.
That's what you get, but what would be the cost of doing business if I had passed, you know, you could either get $542 or you could get $500 as an arbitrary example. So again, I'm just pointing out, you understand, I'm just pointing out that part that I feel that the general public and a lot of appraisers may not even know that.
The other thing that I would point out that is not in here was that I thought about it when Sarah mentioned about the real estate agent. If you have a training working on a report where they want an appraiser signs your report, if you're looking at transparency to the consumer, should that also be an issue? If you're splitting your fee with a trainee, or you've got 2 appraisers that sign a report or 2 appraisers working on it, then you're getting into what the individual is getting, and if that's what you're trying to tell the borrower, then maybe you need to break it down more.
I'm afraid that's getting, in my opinion, that's breaking it down too much to the point it's going to be confusing. I think the appraisal, the way things are working now is, I've gone from having 7 or 8 trainees to just me. And I've had to go back to a mom and pop shop. I never want to, but I am. So I just think what the net fee to the appraiser stated somewhere in the report is where we ought to go. I understand, I hear Dave's point. But can somebody come up with some wording here? Let's move on.
For me, I would probably put it in the reconciliation portion. It would also drive appraisers to put something in the reconciliation.
And we've been very careful because not all appraisals are 1004s. You know, and trying to say you're going to put it in a specific place in a form is not going to work. I mean, maybe 90% of them are URARs, but there are also 2055s and various other types, and even narratives for one of our families. So but everybody should have a reconciliation.
That was kind of my point.
That's my concern, and there's different individuals that I've talked to, even here and in my community. This does not apply just to a specific appraisal assignment. This is geared towards the relationship between an ANC and an appraiser. And because those are not being openly transparent, to be redundant, but they're not being openly reported back to the consumer. So what Roberta has brought up is a big issue. A lot of these assignment types have forms that don't have sections that are readily available for comments, and it's going to have to be, if we say specifically where it's got to be, then we're going to have a list of places, and then it may change. So I don't know that we're going to be able to specify specifically, where that placed it. Because if we do that, then we're going to miss a particular item. That's why I sort of like having it prominently displayed in the body of the report. And then making sure that the invoice is actually attached to the report. Now, going through the XML converters, it's not going to be sent in for into the portal. It's not going to make any difference. But when it is attached, it becomes part of the PDF file. And that way the consumer is actually getting that. And that would go with any site. So if you put it in the body of the report and put the copy of the invoice attached, then the appraiser can pick and choose where they put it for that assignment type. And the invoice is going along, and it's kind of what we are required to do the use map if we have to pay or get paid anything for an assignment. If we're having to actually pay a penalty, we're required to state that we did receive compensation or that we had to pay something. We have to place it in two places, in the body of the report and the transmittal record. That's our statement requires us to do that. So in this particular case, the appraiser's used to doing this thing. If we're requiring it, I would say let the appraiser choose the section just as strong as predominant, and then add the invoice to the assignment, and we've taken care of the situation.
Mr. Chairman, can I make a motion?
You may, sir.
Okay. I'm going to combine some words here. Help me out, Roberta, as I speak the fourth. I don't want to say just management companies' position. We're talking about transparency. It should be for any assignment. So I would like to take, if you'll go to page 105 and start here, for an appraisal of a 1 to 4 family residential dwelling, an appraiser shall prominently display the fee paid to the appraiser for the assignment in the body of the report. Further, the invoice shall be included in the PDF submitted report.
Can I ask a question?
You can do anything you want to do with that.
Because if we do that, then we're specifically doing electronic filing, so we have to have it in the attached copy of the report. If we're doing.
I'm sorry, I missed that.
If you say in the PDF copy, there's a lot of appraisal reports that are not transmitted electronically.
Oh, gotcha. Okay. Understand. Okay, we take that out. Just take that out.
So, can you repeat that?
I started playing with it as well, let me show you.
Okay, what did you?
I took option 2. It said when an appraisal management company engages an independent appraiser for an appraisal of the 1 to 4 family residential dwelling, the appraiser shall prominently display the fee to be paid by the appraisal management company. In the body of the appraisal report as follows: the fee paid is. In addition, the appraiser shall also attach the invoice for the assignment to the appraisal report.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Because what you wordsmithed is similar to what I was doing. But I read, to my mind, if there is a requirement to transmit the invoice, I don't see a point to having it anywhere in the report. I would just, what I ended up with, include the appraiser's invoice in the report in a format that can be transmitted to the lender and the borrower, and the lender must include the invoice in the information furnished the borrower. In other words, if the invoice gets to the borrower, I don't care if they put it anywhere in the report.
Well, I don't think we can control it. That's what's wrong.
If it's
We
legally
can't.
done, okay. Never mind.
We can't make the lender give it to the borrower.
Yeah, I mean, that gets out of our jurisdiction.
That's why I wanted to put it in the body of the report, because they might be able to
Yeah.
strip an invoice, but they're not gonna be able to strip it.
Exactly, but I don't know why would limit this to appraisal management company? Why does it have to be just AMCs? It should be any assignment on a 1 to 4 family. We need to put the 1 to 4 family
Yeah.
residential in there.
But I thought you said like if somebody contacts you and just wants you to appraise their house for listing purposes, you don't wanna have to do that, so that would fall under there.
Well, how, instead of saying that, what could we say, an assignment that comes, assignment for mortgage lending purposes?
That might be a little too vague. The past rules review.
The point is, why do we have, because I have, most of my clients are not AMCs, and they're playing the same game. I want it to include everybody, not just AMCs.
Could you say AMC or similar intermediary in case you have someone doing a similar function that's not?
I just spent 3 weeks going through 32 pages of technical corrections for the Rules Review Commission. They parse every word. They make me explain what retaliation meant in great detail, and spent a couple of days trying to find a better word for that rule. So I'm very cautious about making sure we completely define what it is that we're doing.
Here's where, I guess I'll follow that, Corey, is we have agreed, we've talked through this over the past few months, as you indicated. The breakdown is in when there's a loan being made. And it's in the disclosure when an AMC is ordering, that's what we have been talking about. But the breakdown is when you've got an AMC involved over here. That if a bank is ordering the appraisal, right, it has to be disclosed that way. It has to be.
Do you know that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So the only breakdown is when it's coming through this AMC over here. And for me, and knowing how the internal workings, and of course it's been a few years since I worked inside the bank, they're putting on the HUD statement what the consumer is paying. If they're paying me or you X dollars, that's what's going to be put on the statement.
Okay, well, I'm fine with that. Go back to what you originally said, Roberta, and just saying, should it not? I mean, we had an objection last time because we didn't say 1 to 4 family.
Well, we had an objection because we didn't say AMC. We had 1 to 4 family last time. But we didn't say ordered by appraisal management company. That was the issue.
Okay.
Am I?
Mr. Ingram,
Before I start that, is there any reason why we can't put net fee? Am I missing something? Since
Then we
there's
have
some
to define
question.
net fee.
Okay.
We can do it. I'm just saying that if you're gonna put net fee in there, you're gonna have to define it.
So, failing that,
so he's finished.
may I make an alternative to what we've been discussing? When an appraisal management company engages an independent fee appraiser for a specific 1 to 4 family assignment, the appraiser should prominently display the fee received from the appraisal management company in the body of the appraisal report as follows. The fee received by the appraiser for this appraisal assignment is, period, a copy of the invoice shall be included within the report.
So. Second.
Well, we're not doing a motion at this point.
Hang on, Chris, you got the floor.
My concern with limiting it to just the appraisal management company or any specific assignment is the lack of consistency. And I think if we're going to make some sort of regulation or rule or guidance, it should be consistent. And I think the appraiser should make it a consistent part of their appraisal report, and I think it should be in the appraisal report or attached as an invoice to every assignment, regardless of whether it's for an appraisal company or any other body. I think it just needs to be part of the appraisal report for consistent purposes, so that when we look at it, or when the staff looks at it, it's automatically something that's part and consistent. Well, who was this appraisal for? Well, did it really need to be? Was there any just take away any sort of determination in it and make it a consistent rule that goes with each and every appraisal. So that there is no, well, was it really for an appraisal management company? I did it for Joe down the road and I didn't really think it needed to be a part, and I think we run into regulatory issues.
If I could ask, because I don't know that it's necessary, but and what we were trying to do is exclude commercial and private and so forth. But if you have an assignment that is direct from the person purchasing the home, they know what they're paying anyhow. So I don't know that it does any harm to leave out AMC. If somebody else could tell me, am I missing something?
I'm just for consistency, and I'm talking 1 to 4, and I'm talking commercial. Just if we're going to do it, I think that we should be consistent. I think it should be, the appraiser should be consistent. I think it should just be a consistent issue with every appraisal report that they're doing for a 1 to 4 single family building.
That's true. The appraiser would get in the habit of doing that every single time, and not have to think about where it's going. Plus, I can see a situation where you have a mortgage lender here and a banker there, and the mortgage lender saying, "Well, you put this fee in my assignment, you didn't in his. Why is that?" and so on. That makes sense.
The only thing I would bring up is that we did get some people like eminent domain or equitable distribution, any of those litigation cases that involve a 1 to 4 family, you're going to be putting it in there now. It could perfectly be the will of the board to put that in there, but you're going to get some pushback from people in the public saying that, or the appraisal community saying they don't want to put that in.
I agree. One more word for thought, all right? In the reading that Mr. Roberta just put before us, we have been talking about 1 to 4 family, and I'm okay with that, right? But there are more than appraisal assignments, specific appraisal assignments that are at risk here, right? Here, parging words, it really needs to be for a specific appraisal services assignment, because then there becomes a question from the ANCs and from maybe from us, maybe from the appraiser. Well, I just did this review, or I did this desktop, or I did a final inspection. All right. If we say appraisal sort of open-ended, how's that going to be integrated into this regulation? So it really should say appraisal services assignment, and it captures all that stuff that's coming through the AMC work. And it's important that we specify that up front. So
My only comment to that is that it's an appraisal review, the borrower probably will never see it. And if that's our end game, is to let the borrower know what their fees are being, what they're paying for. They're not going to see a review, or they're not going to see a final.
I think that's such a review of that. I mean, a huge range of services. But I do a lot of eminent domain work, and I don't think it would be a good idea to have appraisal fees in appraisals that may well be used in a litigation setting.
Like divorces.
Yeah, eminent domain, equitable distribution, any of the above. I mean, it's not often that residential properties get brought into this, for the most part, roads run through commercial areas where they're widened, but I've got one right now where there is a house on it, and it would be required if we
Same
regulation
thing
this way.
with tax situations, tax appeals.
Tax bills.
They're working on it. I think it's very similar to yours, correct?
When an appraisal management company engages an independent appraiser for a specific 1 to 4 family assignment, the appraiser shall prominently display the fee received from the appraisal management company in the body of the appraisal report as follows. The fee received by the appraiser for this appraisal assignment is X, period. A copy of the invoice shall be included within the report, period.
Could we circulate that as our tentative proposal with the other board members? Is that close enough? Because we have to settle on something and there's an objection to everything. But that's, to me, sounds like the closest we've come to reaching something.
Exactly, I'm wondering at this point if we've provided enough information to the staff that they can come back to us with
The only other
consensus
thing
of what we've discussed.
I could, on wordsmith and get it back to you, the only other comment that was made that resonated with me was what says the fee received by the appraiser. The appraiser has not gotten a fee at the time, for the most part, that they've submitted the report, so maybe instead of received to be paid by might make more sense.
Yes.
I think with that change, I would be perfectly fine voting for that right now.
Well, this isn't on the agenda for a vote today, but we'll definitely do it on the next time. Because the deal will be, I'll have it ready to commence rulemaking next year. Or decide whether or not you want to do that.
This for August?
Yeah. If we decide that we want to do that at that point.
Will you submit something to the board
Yeah, you'll
members
get
prior to that?
Yeah, we certainly will. All right, let me,
Everybody good with that?
there's one more thing to talk about in this, other potential rule and statute changes, and this brings me to Ms. Schubert's point earlier. In talking to, let me back up and give you the overall picture. As you remember, in looking at our AMC statute, months ago, we realized that there were a lot of issues within it. The statute was drafted in 2010, it was not drafted by the staff here at the appraisal board. It needs some tweaks. We've recognized that it's needed tweaks now for a while. And then, in looking at the new appraisal subcommittee policy statements and them coming in to do a review of our program in November, they were also going to review our AMC statute. So I had to fill out a questionnaire, does your statute do all of this? And then all of a sudden I got to a place and said, no, we don't have that in our statute. We actually don't comply with the ASC's AMC National Registry Policy Statements. So we requested an extension of a year, which we could do under federal law, to get our AMC statute up to speed and in compliance with the subcommittee's policy statements. We did receive a letter from the subcommittee that the subcommittee approved the extension, but it has to go before the FFIEC, Federal Financial Institutions Examination Council, I think is who that is, for their approval. But I think that it will be approved. What it means is that we've got a year to get our statute changed to get it up to complying with the policy statements. So that has sort of changed a little of the direction that we were taking in looking at rulemaking, because if we need to open our AMC statute, then we ought to redo our AMC statute and get it to do the things that we want it to do, as opposed to change it for just this one thing. If we're going to open our AMC statute, we may be able to do a statute that we were thinking about trying to get by doing by rule. And the time to change the statute will be at the long session that starts in January. If we do rules now, then we may end up, and it takes about 6 months to do rulemaking anyway, by the time we can get them to the point where they're ready to go to Rules Review Commission, we may be able to change the statute to clean up a lot of this stuff that we've been talking about. So I talked to Anna Choi about this, asked her opinion before even saying much about it. I just told her about the extension, and she said, well, here's an opportunity to redo the statute to get this to do the things that you wanted to do, because the memo she gave to us said, yes, you need to do a couple of rules to clarify who your other case is up against, but you really need to get back into your statute. So that's what we were looking at. That it makes more sense to get into our statute than to engage in rulemaking, not around what we just talked about, but around a lot of the bigger questions that we had identified earlier, like, we don't even have the authority to discipline an AMC that's been disciplined in another state. That's not part of our statute. We get notified all the time that they're getting disciplined, but not all the time. We occasionally get notifications that an AMC has been disciplined, but our statute doesn't allow us to do any sort of discipline based on that, where it does for a person, but not for an AMC. There are a lot of things in there about raising the surety bond, not letting an AMC cancel its bond, and so on and so forth, that came up as, I think, an investigations committee, we talked about that. So here's our opportunity because we have to go in anyway. The other part of it, if we do decide to look at our statute, is also, as a thought, is looking at the appraiser section to see if we're going to change anything in regards to the changes from the AQB. The AQB just lowered their minimums. Does the board want to lower some or all? That's not a discussion for today at all, but that's just another reason why we might be going before the legislature next year. Obviously, there are other rule tweaks that, I have a specific yellow pad that's just rule tweaks. Seems like every single time we go through renewal or something around here, we find something that needs to be tweaked, so there's always something. So I just wanted to let you know what the current thinking was on all of this, and get your thoughts.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question. Mr. Roger, would it make sense to press forward with the statutory changes as well as rulemaking, so if we don't get the statutory changes we want, we'll have them hopefully through rulemaking?
We could do rulemaking, then if the statute does change, then you're turning around and doing another rulemaking and doing temporary rulemaking. So if rules that could potentially go into effect, if we started in August, and I'm not sure we can get all of this ready to actually commence rulemaking in August, if we started in September, it would be bringing us into March of next year. Because given the way that their deadlines work for the Rules Review Commission to get your paperwork in, to get it published, to do, as you remember the whole list of what you have to do to get a rule done around here is commencement, notice of text, public hearing, end of comment, board vote, rules review. It's like the use path change voted in December and will be effective in August, so it takes a while to get these rules. I mean, we can certainly work on it, but it's also, is it worth your resources to spend some, September adopting rules and starting the process and have the statute change underneath it? That's not my decision, that's yours.
I tend to also agree, Mr. Ingram. There was a perception, whether it's right or wrong, I tend to think that the perception is probably correct, that in large part, the AMC statute, as we like to refer to, we appear to and have kicked the can down the road for several years. And we've made some small attempts. And in this case, watching and listening to the comments even after our last meeting, the section was we kicked the can down the road again. Now, there were some legitimate concerns that we're trying to address, but I think that personally, I'd like to go ahead and get started on rulemaking for what we have. If that changes, we have to change the rules, but at least we're trying to get something accomplished today. And I think that's, we owe it to the public. Our statute has been in place officially since January 1, 2011. And we have taken care of 2 or 3 things in there, but there's some glaring issues that we just have not been able to address or have not addressed. So personally, I'd like to see us really start putting together rules with what we have, get the changes so we have that. Let's start something.
And if I may, the reason I asked the question earlier is I have come to share the perception that everything takes incredibly long when it comes to regulating NCs. If we are going to say that we do, I actually thought we had the authority until we came across that case not that long ago that extremely upset me, where you had an AMC just send a letter to the appraiser saying, hey, we decided to go out of business, here's 25 cents on the dollar. No, you have no right to look at our books to see if we took the other 75. And yes, it is a duplication of effort, but we could have gotten it into the rulemaking sooner if we had known sooner what. It's like I keep learning a few things, and most of them I don't like. So I would join the gentleman on either side and say, waiting to see what happens, I think will be embarrassing, because we are supposed to have been doing this since before I got on this board. So I'm personally embarrassed with the way it's gone, and I strongly believe the sooner it is corrected, the better. I mean, isn't it nice to be surprised to know that we had to ask the feds for a 1-year extension because, hey, we've got a registry, but we haven't met the requirements. Just the sooner it's fixed, the better from my standpoint.
Okay, is that finish item D? On the rulemaking update? I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
I'm done, yeah.
Okay, we move on to consent orders.
I do have one consent order for you. Mr. Bohr, I need to ask you to recuse yourself on this one. It's regarding Thomas W. Harris Jr. It's somebody in your area that you had mentioned the name to one of our investigators, so I would rather that you sat out, but you probably won't even remember.
I don't remember. Yeah.
Abundance of caution, if you
Sure, absolutely.
recuse yourself from that, I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Mr. Harris did an appraisal of property in Southport in November of 2016, effective September 1st of 2016, finding a value of $440,000. This is a proposed one-story dwelling that has 2,600 square feet and is on a 20,000 square foot lot in a gated residential golf course development. The assignment conditions required him to provide an original color photograph of the front of the comparable sales, and if he could not do so, he should state in the report why he did so. He did use MLS photos in his report, but did not provide an explanation as required by his assignment conditions. He's agreed to an administrative warning and to complete the 15-hour national use class. If he fails to complete the class, the case will be opened, and the hours from the course can be used for his CE requirement. I will say that when this case was called for a hearing, there were far more serious allegations involved, and upon further investigation, they could not be substantiated. But he has an attorney and he has agreed to this.
So moved.
Second. Okay, we have a motion and a second on, I don't know the case number, I'm sorry. Mr. Harris,
Harris.
all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
That's it for consent orders. You have probable cause. I will note on the AMC case, on page 22, I've got the wrong case number on the summary, but don't worry about it later. It really is case number 22.
And that's on page 22.
It is on page 22, and I had it as case 22, but it's actually case 21. I mean, it's actually case 22, so it says 21, but it's 22. And I would change that.
So it's actually on page 22.
And it is case 22.
Case number 22.
Is that right?
Yeah, I just double checked the folder.
22
It's
on
22 on 22, but it's a wrong case number on there.
Who's gonna say?
If the people that specifically specific ones that they would like to discuss?
We can get up there.
Yes, sir.
I've got a couple of questions, so. Make sure that I've got.
Okay, Mr. Vincent's first.
I will start with that one case, the ANC case, case number 21, page 22. Let's torn on this one, all right, because in our summary, we're told that they have taken care of it, so I'm not out to try to create a bigger issue, because if they haven't indeed taken care of this, it's everybody wins. In this particular case, the state law specifically requires that if the appraiser is put on account, that the appraiser is to declare in writing. In the gray area here is that, let's say it's the first assignment, and they're looking out there and they call in the appraiser up and getting you to take care of a specific assignment, and you declare that in writing in the first assignment or at the time that you're engaged, then I think you have met the overall requirement, both in spirit and law. But if they are out by law, if they are soliciting you to become part of the panel, this thing, the appraiser has to tell them where they are geographically competent and what kinds of assignments they're competent in up front. We all know that the competency is not required by USPAC at the beginning of an assignment. It requires that the appraiser be competent when they turn in the assignment at the end. So, but at least in this part of it, the declaration has to be made up front, at least in the areas that they currently have competency. So I'm in agreement in this particular case. I don't think that it's enough to come out with some kind of sanctions, but I think there has to be a warning issue that they cannot allow this to happen in the future, because without that warning, something in writing, it can happen again and again, and this board will never, and the staff will never know what's going on, and honestly, the ANCs wouldn't know what to expect from us. We just dismiss it. They're never being told, don't do this. So at a minimum, I'm okay in this particular case, personally, and I'd like to make a motion that we dismiss it to the floor.
If they ask other board members if they have a comment first.
Yes.
And I found this kind of interesting, the last couple of lines. The ANC does have an annual requirement to require panel members to update their competency. The continuous affirmation of competency as part of the engagement process could be considered sufficient to meet the intent of the rule. And it's almost like we're making policy by case law as opposed to statute. We haven't gone through rulemaking and said you could do that, but by saying this is okay, we're getting kind of close. And I'm not sure, but what we may inadvertently have stumbled across a rule that could make sense. I'd like to have people closer to it comment, because, for example, the person who made this complaint is on the panel for approximately 30 AMCs. If you have a requirement for annual competency update for members of that panel, you're talking a lot of time, and a lot of the people doing it, probably it doesn't affect them. They may not even get an assignment that year. Plus, to exclude people because they're not licensed, well, they could get temporary license, or to say that we're not going to talk to you because this isn't in your competency. Well, I kind of like the idea that competency can be certified when someone is asked about a specific assignment. You know, are you competent, or can you become competent, do you want to do this assignment? I like that inadvertent rule possibility. So I'm not really sure whether or what would be appropriate, but it does seem to me that if everyone checks before they give an assignment, you know, the appraiser has to certify before actually accepting the assignment, would that be a reasonable substitution for every year hundreds of people have to submit another document saying, I'm licensed in these states and competent in these areas, but you might want to hire somebody that's a North Carolina appraiser to do something in South Carolina, and why not? So do we have a rule that's actually unduly burdensome?
And one question that came up in the staff discussion this year was along the lines of, I remember when all this was discussed back in 2010 or whatever, that, you know, the concern was you give an assignment out to an appraiser who just needed a fee. I mean, they were in a situation they needed to get paid, and they would willingly go from, say, Raleigh to Charlotte for an assignment just because it didn't make business sense, but they needed the money. And so that was kind of where a lot of this came on. But then when you look at it, kind of the unintended consequence that came up at this later date, USPAC itself provides an appraiser the ability to become competent after receiving the assignment. And the federal government requires us to issue temporary practice permits so people can cross state lines and do assignments. So it's almost like we're running afoul of what our governing document says that they're allowed to do by having this and I think you used the word, is it unduly burdensome? So yeah, I think that's something maybe we should look at.
Any other comments? You gave a motion,
I would like to restate the motion. I'd like to make the motion that we dismiss this case, but send a warning that, along with it, that this would be considered a violation and not to do it, or whatever, however we want to set the warning here for this particular action. I'm not the one drafting, the one that does that, so I'd have to lean on the expertise of that.
okay, is it possible to, you can't do it at this moment, I'm assuming.
I think it would be difficult.
So do we want to set this aside to get a chance to change the recommendation?
I mean, I have no problem adding a warning if you would like a warning. The rule does say that you have to update at least annually. If you're doing it per assignment, then I think technically you are complying. But it's the warning, what is the warning going to specifically state, I guess is my question.
Perhaps a warning to ensure that the appraiser retained does affirm his ability and willingness to become competent or obtain credentialing if he does not already have that. Just something to be sure that when the guy actually does the job, he is competent to do the job.
They have to, right now, this company, the affirmation is, the appraiser is familiar with the local market, is competent to appraise a property type, and has access to the data sources needed to develop a credible appraisal. That's the affirmation with each appraisal assignment that this company does. It seems pretty specific. That's why I have a hard time with the warning part of it, because if they're doing affirmation per assignment as opposed to once a year, when the rule says at least yearly, and you're doing it every single time. I mean, I sat there thinking, it just does seem something wrong with it, but I can't put my finger on it because it seems to me very rule.
Well, the rule requires people to affirm that are never gonna do any work. That what they're doing accomplishes the goal.
Right.
Doesn't.
That's why they dismiss, it accomplishes the goal. But there's, somebody's got some warning language that happened right now.
It would appear that we need to accept the staff recommendation on this, at this time. For lack of a definite warning.
I move that we accept the staff recommendation on this.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to accept the staff recommendation. Cause issue, 2017-0022. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to also be noted that my motion was made, failed due to lack of due to a lack of second, so that we can get the parliamentary procedure done on that.
So, at this point in time, we need to go back to how we normally handle probable cause issues so that we get through these. You have none.
I have no.
None. Chuck, none.
None.
We have none.
Very straightforward risk.
I'll make the motions.
I can come up with a recommendation.
No, that's fine. You're good.
I second.
I don't have a second. Do you have another?
No, that covered it. I'm good. Thank you.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion to staff recommendation on the balance of the PC. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion is carried.
Mr. Chairman, can we take about 5 minutes break?
We're thinking along the same line.
Well, we'll technically be downstairs, I need to see about 2, so give us maybe 10 minutes.
10 minutes.